We are back. We are still on the live podcast stage at Startup Boston
Woohoo,
Week.
Startup Boston Week.
This is Setting the Bar, and we have our second guest with us today, Allison MacLeod from Flywire. Thank you again for
Welcome,
joining
Allison.
us.
Thank you for
We're
having
so glad
me.
to have you. Allison was just saying she took the ferry in from Scituate, which is so cool. Very cool Boston of you.
It is very cool, Boston, right? Yeah. Way better commute than...
It's a beautiful commute.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about the traffic.
Especially on a day like today, where it's still really nice out, but it's not sweltering.
And you don't get sweaty. But I get my steps in too, which is awesome.
Because you get to, walking from the ferry.
Yeah.
And then also, I've heard of people, because Allison and I are from neighboring towns, so a lot of my community takes the ferry, that they treat the afternoon ferry sometimes like a booze cruise, and they'll take it to and from Boston. They'll get on it, go to Scituate or Hingham, back to Boston, and then back, and treat it like a...
Oh my gosh, that's actually kind of genius.
Yes.
Oh, in Boston, people think, you know what it is? It's working smarter. Not harder, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Turn your commute into the party.
Right. On a Friday, a Thursday, whatever.
Whatever. Anyway.
So introduce Allison. Everybody, I think, in this world, especially in fintech and in the startup scene, knows who Allison is. Flywire is one of Boston's, I would say, biggest success stories, for sure.
Not to brag. Not to brag.
And Allison in general is a pretty big success on her own. So, Maddie.
Yes, Allison knows how to take scrappy teams to scale, and that is why we have her here today, because we love a scrappy team. We love hearing scaling stories in the city. We say it every episode, Boston is the best place to grow your business.
Yes.
And Flywire is a great example of that. You've been with them for almost 6 years now.
Almost 7.
Almost 7 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. So
wild.
tell us about how you came to Flywire and a little bit about what brought you there.
Sure. So previous to Flywire, I was actually with Rapid7, which was also another great startup story and success in the Boston community. And loved my role there. And our CEO at Flywire, Mike Massaro, kept pinging me. And at first I was like, I'm so happy. I haven't heard. I don't really know what Flywire does. Had definitely heard of them. So finally I was like, okay, I'll have lunch. What's the harm in networking with the CEO? And by the end of lunch, I found myself saying sure, I'd love to meet the board. I'd love to meet the rest of the executive team.
Awesome.
Just, amazing opportunity. And in the payment space, payments and software, but who we serve, if you think of the verticals and the industries we serve, typically very digitally underserved. Education, so paying your tuition, healthcare, paying your medical bills, and travel. And in the case of the travel clients we serve, luxury vacation, so your trip of a lifetime, right? You want to make sure those payments experiences are seamless, and then B2B. So I fell in love with the story, the mission, and found myself jumping on board, which at the time was a startup.
It's wild.
And it's been
wild
an incredible
to think of it
ride.
as a startup.
Yes.
when you guys IPO'd, it was like a $3.5 billion company at that point,
2021.
2021.
So we were one of the first coming out of COVID. We're still very much in COVID that was able to do an in-person IPO at NASDAQ, which is pretty amazing.
That is so cool.
It was super cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like a goosebumps feeling. You're just like, what? Yeah. How did I get here?
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely a dream moment.
Tell us about why has Flywire, not why, but they should, obviously, but stayed in Boston and not been lured out to Silicon Valley or lured out to New York City. What about Boston has led to the company's success? And I know you guys are even doubling down on Boston, keeping your HQ here, hiring more people here. This is your home, and it seems like it's going to be your home forever. But tell us what about Boston has contributed to the success of the company?
So for one, yes, the headquarters has always been in Boston. Now, when you actually look at the footprint of our employees, who we call our Flymates.
Our Flymates!
That's really cute.
We're all over the world. So we have a very large office in Valencia. We also have Flymates all over Spain. We've got London, Cluj, Romania. We have folks in India, in Singapore, in Australia, in China. So we were always very global.
Yeah.
Even in early stages.
Even in early stages. And I think that was one of the things that really drew me to the company was a lot of companies will say, oh, yeah, we're global. But really what that means is they're headquartered somewhere.
Right.
And every other office is satellite. So,
Yeah.
The team I have is all over the world. And I love that, right? Like I learned so much more about other cultures, other people really working. And when you think of what we do, right, we're moving money all over the world and you're moving, say, the case of a student studying from China and going to the UK or the US, right? Like it really is such a global organization. When it comes to Boston, our CEO is in Boston, but even pre him, the company was here, right? Like, first of all, there's a few things I think about Boston that no other city has. Like if you think of just the academics here, the talent coming out of universities and colleges. I personally am very bullish on Boston. I think it's harder now for companies to start here just because I think cost prohibitive, right?
Yeah.
But like, I do think as like an ecosystem and tech ecosystem, like how do we ensure that companies want to build here and stay here and grow
you are
here?
Speaking our language.
Right. I also sit on the board of Mass TLC, and it's a lot of what we talk about, right? Like mass-based companies, like we have so much advantage. So how do we make sure that we keep it competitive and companies want to stay here and build their futures?
Yeah, we talk a lot about that too at Work Bar. I think that just from a logistical standpoint, like you said, the cost of living is so high here. Public transportation, even though we have amazing features like the ferry, but that's really just for a couple of towns. But we talk a lot at Work Bar about the first 5 years after graduation from these higher ed institutes that are obviously world-renowned, Harvard, MIT, Boston College, Boston University, all of them. How do we create and sort of, continue to incentivize people to live here? And one of the things that Work Bar is trying to do and is doing is creating the ecosystems that drive innovation outside of the city of Boston.
Yes.
So creating it in Worcester, creating it in Burlington, Vermont, creating it sort of, because Boston I think of as sort of all of New England, not just the city of Boston, obviously. But if you can create these ecosystems of dynamic, innovative workspaces and let people move further outside of the city, but they can still be a flymate. They can still, go into a workspace and get inspired and have that vibe and energy. I think that is just something that's super impactful in trying to keep them in Boston, because we have seen over the past few years an exodus after they graduate to Silicon Valley, to New York, to Austin, Texas.
When you think of cost of living, it's cost of living plus trying to find a place to live. Real estate is very difficult here. Transportation is very difficult. Everything is very high. I love the idea you just said, right? Because it actually came up in the panel I was in before when it said, hey, a lot of companies are saying 5 days a week, must go back. And they're forcing people back in what has, I think a lot of companies are left with very expensive real estate and saying we need people back in this office
to make it worth it.
But they're in large HQs in major cities, right? So you're asking people that cost of commuting, where I think what people really crave and what's important is, does 5 days a week at 8 to 10 hours a day, is that really going to improve results and productivity? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see that, right? But what is you can't substitute that in-person real time. So how do you make those opportunities where it's not always I got to get 2 hours to the office, right? So you all have a great use case for that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think so too. And I think that it's just, we were kind of not talking super nicely about Gen Z in our previous podcast, but I do think that there's if anybody is thinking about how the generations rising into the workforce, who are all the people we want to hire and who want, they will not do that.
Nope.
That is just not something. So enough of this, okay, I get it. You made a bad real estate decision, but
you have to cut your
that's
losses.
a sunk cost. Move on.
Yep.
So, but anyways, I could talk for days about that.
I know.
But let's talk more about you, Allison.
Let's talk more about Flywire. So when you were saying before about moving money all over the world, I think that is such a an interesting thing to note, is that there are so many of these tech companies that do so many different things. That is kind of an intense one when you think about it. It's the stakes must feel really high. every day. Some of the other tech, like, I don't know, I guess maybe everybody feels like their stuff is high stakes at all times.
Yeah.
But to me, that feels really high stakes. How do you keep the intensity at the right level where people still want to work at Flywire, still want to use Flywire as a tool when it's kind of like a scary thing to think about?
Great question. So I think one, like, you see lots of passion just within our employee base, right? And people getting very excited again when I go back to the mission. So I wear a couple different hats.
Yeah.
One is like CMO and overseeing RevOps, and the other is GM of our U.S. education business. So selling and serving universities all over the U.S., right?
Yeah.
With both, like, how do you help their international students with making payments, but also how do you help all of their students? So think of those very large, some of the most important things that people are doing in their lifetime, paying tuition.
Right.
Tuition is not cheap.
Right.
So some of the things that we do, like, yes, it eases the burden of the finance office of how do they think about collecting money,
Right.
reconciling money, but we also equally care about the student, right? And you think of like the cost and how prohibitive it can be. How do you extend affordability options like payment plans to students? Like, how do you make sure you keep students enrolled? Collections is an issue. Students come to the U.S. or they're in the U.S. and they suddenly can't pay. And in most options, it's then you're out, right? Like with Flywire, that gives the ability, one, to like for the university to help collect that money,
Right.
in a way that the student can pay.
Okay.
And I think when you said like back to the motivation, like that's what gets me so excited
Yeah.
every day. Like when you talk to our clients, when you meet with students, when you even hear students, like an international student. I was at an event a couple of months ago, and an international student came up to me and was like, "Hey, I paid with Flywire. I'm from Babson." Like those moments are amazing.
Yeah.
And to your point, like it is high stakes, right? Like we're in regulated industries.
Yeah.
We have incredible legal compliance.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
I think that's part of the great thing of what we do, right? Like universities have to worry about keeping students enrolled, right? And they want the great experience. We don't want them having to worry about regulation.
Right.
Like,
You want to
know,
take care
fraud.
of that stuff.
We take care of all of that for them.
That's amazing. I think it's really neat because this happens every episode.
Yeah.
That no matter who we're interviewing, it really all does come back to like being human-centered and
Yes.
building a community that can support the people that you want to serve. We were talking about with Alon. He's a meal delivery service and so much more. We are a co-working space, so much more. And you guys are a fintech company, a payment platform of which there are many. But keeping it human-centered is really what changes the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously we can talk for hours and hours about how the ladies do it best, but seeing women in the leadership positions, and I think that is a big part of what brings so much humanness to these companies. And it's like, we don't have to just be a very, we take payments and like we're global. You can really make it human and make it about the people who are using your service.
Yeah.
That's what sets people apart.
100%. Like think of us just as consumers in our own right.
Yeah.
Like the brands that you love and hold affinity to, it's how it makes you feel. Right.
Totally.
It's whether that gives you a sense of security, whether that gives you a sense of purpose, or a mission, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how you want to feel when you're experiencing that. But it all comes down to like you have to know your clients and your buyers and make sure that whatever you're delivering, whether it's, goods, services, software, like it has to be right for that segment or that person. Otherwise, like no one wants one size fits all.
Right.
No one wants one size fits all. And taking a sort of a macro scope to that as well, Kara and I, when we were talking about this podcast earlier, we were talking about you as a really big, impactful voice for women, not just in fintech, but about leadership in general. And I'd love to hear more about your thoughts around that. When Kara and I were talking about it, we were talking about how it seemed like women, and I think you guys were talking about this too, it seemed like there was a period in time when it got a lot of hype and a lot of press, and that seemed to have died down a little bit. You're on a lot of boards that are probably pretty male dominated, I would imagine. And fintech, I think just thinking about tech bros and that image that you get in your head is probably a male dominated world, as is real estate. But how do you solve for that within your organization and on your teams?
Oh, this is one we could talk about all day.
I know. And I just
Honestly,
I almost was like, wait to bring it up, but then I was like, I feel like I want to talk about it so much.
It's so important, right?
Yeah.
I think I am obviously a female, so passionate about female leadership. I have a lot of female leaders on my team.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
That's
I think
awesome.
8 of the 10 are females on my team that are my leaders. So one is, yes, I think a couple years ago, like a lot of, which by the way, Mass TLC, I'm on that board, which is amazing, nonprofit board. I do some advising for other venture firms, but board roles are even harder to come by women, right? So that's one that I'd say, like, that journey for me, I felt like, I'm starting to get like my foot in the door.
Yeah. You are.
That one feels though like in the last several years that's closed more for women again. So
yes, it
where
does.
before they'd say, hey, public markets or private markets, we want to see this. You're not seeing that anymore. Right now, it's sort of like, nope, we're not worried about that. So yes, you want to make sure that people are given opportunities based on their merit, but I think inherently women are still overlooked, right? There's still the stigma. It was interesting, the panel I was on before too, someone came up to me at the end and said, hey, it was all women on that panel. Is that just because women burn out more? And I was like, and it was an honest question.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is a very good observation. I think it was because women were willing to speak about it.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Rather, like, where it's still a stigma to say, like, you don't admit it. Right.
Yeah.
Totally. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me started. Yeah.
I have a passion for, like, how do you, like, a lot of my time, because I see women do it to themselves, right? Like, obviously, I try not to project, because I do find myself sometimes projecting and being like, do this, this, and this. And they're like, I don't want that curd. And you're like, oh, yeah.
You're like,
that's me. That's my motivation.
Yeah.
But I do see women all the time be like, oh, I can't do that. I can't. I'm like, why can't you? Like, who said you can't?
Yeah.
But yet you still see that. And I think women playing small. I have a colleague and this other CMO in Boston. She's incredible. Jess Iandiorio. I forget where she is now. She's another Boston startup, but she wrote an article which is like stuck with me forever, and I recommend it to everyone, called "She's Not That Strategic." But it talks a lot about how female leaders tend to take all the tasks. They keep the trains running. They do everything. But when it comes time for that, like, promotion, it's she does a ton, right?
Yeah.
But not that strategic. We don't see her talking. We don't see her out there because she's getting all the work done.
She
So
is.
that's when I try to, again, not project, but when I think of, like, the females I have on my team, of, like, how do you give the opportunity to make sure they have exposure to the rest of the executive team or boards or others, and, like, prop them up to say, hey, you should speak at this, or you should do this.
Right.
I think it's incredibly important.
I am so glad somebody asked you that question after that panel, even though it felt very prickly when you said it. But this May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this past May at Work Bar, we did a lot on supporting mental health in the workplace, and we had a couple really incredible organizations come and do some lunch and learns at our spaces and talk to our members and our employees, and it really, in a way that I've never looked at work before, made me realize how burnt out everyone is at work, every single person. But
I remember the unburnt one. Right.
Yes, she was on that panel.
She was on the
She's
panel.
amazing.
Yes. And, like, that really...
She came and talked at Work Bar a few times. Yeah.
It really spoke to me, because that's what women have been raised and programmed to do from history, like thousands of years. And I do think that we do ourselves such a disservice in a way, because we're so inclined to just, like, do it all, because we actually can do it all. And so it's interesting that came up, and then you said that there are women out there who are saying, like, I can't do it. It's like, what? Yes, you can. You already are doing it. And I think, like you said, women are more inclined to be like, yeah, I'm feeling very burnt out. And it is also because the vast majority of women, and obviously we can't speak for every woman in leadership, but the vast majority of successful women in leadership positions are also moms, are partners, are also sitting on boards. And we have to do that to stay relevant and to stay in our leadership roles in a way that men still don't have to.
Yeah.
So I think like you can be a male CEO, and that's not to say that that's not a huge job at many, many places, but you can be a male CEO and that's all you have to be, and you can still be considered very successful. But if you're a female CEO, a female chief marketing officer, and that's all you do, it's like, oh, you're a marketing girly.
Yeah.
So I think we're still so up against it in such an interesting way. Kudos to that person for asking that question. That is vulnerable in and of itself.
I loved it.
But that's really interesting.
So how do we solve this?
Yeah, what
are we going to do?
I think keeping the conversation going, right? I do think, I think a lot of companies, if you think of even from a company perspective, like we started something many years ago, and it's actually still a very vibrant, thriving community, which I love. Women of Flywire, right? And like even yesterday, someone shared this awesome podcast, which I listened to this morning. It was a Mel Robbins podcast. It's her latest one, but it was with a psychologist all about like designing your life and like think of yourself in 10 years. And it was great, just like the conversations it sparked, right? So it goes back to like the playing small. And even in that podcast, it talked a lot about like women still tend to play small. And before we even say like, I want to be an athlete, right? And I actually find myself doing it with my kids, right? My kids are little. So they'll say like, I want to be a football player. And then like your knee-jerk reaction is like,
it is.
Well,
right?
yeah.
So then I'm like, nope, that is their dream. And
you
you have
are
to
going to play in the NFL, baby.
And it's like, do you believe you can do it? Yes, then you can do it, right? So it's like we have to do that for ourselves, and we have to keep encouraging it.
Yeah.
So I think it always goes back to like, what can we do? I think keeping the conversation going and like shining a light on it and making opportunities. Like one thing I love is I think I've been incredibly fortunate in my career that I've been given opportunities by other women, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like my job is like, I want to pay it forward, right?
Yeah.
So
Totally.
like I want to mentor other women and help them in their careers. And I think the more we see of that, right, the more
I think so
more
too.
it will help.
Yeah. Representation, I think, does matter.
It really does. And I
substantially.
think, you said boards now, and it's not a bad thing inherently, are focused more on racial diversity, cultural diversity, and checking those boxes, which is so important because everybody deserves a seat at the table, but we don't want to like lose progress as women because of that. And I love how you said too, just about how women are more willing to talk about it is, keep that conversation going and also just like be willing to stay vulnerable and true to who you are. We talk about this every episode and I say it till I'm blue in the face, but Sarah as a CEO really walks the walk, walks the talk, talks the walk, however you say it. And I really didn't have an opportunity to work for somebody like that when I had my first. And working for a company that really says, like, you can be a mom, you can be successful in your career, you can have side hustles, passion projects. You can do it all. And sometimes it's very messy and chaotic. But that's okay. And you still show up and you can still be boss babes.
I
just
think
more inspiration sitting on this stage.
Right. Well, I think it's important, like people in leadership positions who are vocal about that and who can say, I have to head out at 2:00 for the carpool. I have to, it's important I get to my kid's sporting event. It's important I do that. And showing people that you can create some sort of like very loosey-goosey boundaries, but you can also, you can manage it and it's okay. Like,
and
your family's important.
So I would say back to the like, hey, what drove you to Flywire? I remember one of the things that I had at the time 2 little kids.
How old are your kids now?
Now they're 11, 9, and 5.
Okay.
5-year-old wasn't born before I started. He was a surprise.
You are
2 months into the job.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's another episode.
Exactly. But I remember just being like, I feel like I've just gotten to the point where like my life is like sort of manageable.
Right.
And I can't imagine going to a startup and like doing this all over again. Like, and I remember my boss being like, I have 4 boys. Like I make sure on Fridays, like I am home to get them off the bus. Right. And meeting the rest of the team. And even now, like the thing that makes me the most excited is we have a mums and dads channel. And again, we get everyone all over the world. And even the last 2 weeks, it's been awesome because everyone, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, sharing all the kids back to school pictures, right? But you see how much like, we are a big believer in fulfillment and like yes, you can be an incredible leader, but that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice who you are as a human, right? Like, I'm never going to sacrifice being a mom. Like, I mean, my kids, I said to one of them last week, my husband's a stay-at-home dad. So I'll be like, when you tell people what daddy did, what do you say? Oh, I say he's a stay-at-home parent. I'm like, what do you say I do? Type on the computer and talk all day.
Yeah.
Like, one of them was like, you work at like a Wi-Fi company? I'm like, they don't care. Like,
they don't care.
My job to them is like, mom, parent.
Right.
And like, that I think is so important in leadership. Like, we are humans. You have to be human in the workplace.
Totally.
We always talk about like bringing your whole self to work because of that. And it's like, why do you want to leave your kids? Like, why would
part of who you are.
They're like the biggest part of what who you are. Like, why wouldn't you want to bring that to work? And why, as somebody who runs a company, runs a marketing department, why wouldn't you want somebody to bring that perspective
100%
into work?
Yeah.
So I think it's super powerful. I just think it's super powerful. So that's great. Yeah, we need poor people.
I know.
Like
I know. We really do. But you are known for building great teams, hiring great people.
Yeah.
Aside from just, we just got an important question. This is why we can't do signs. There's no Diet Coke. Would you like a Diet Pepsi? I know. Thumbs
that is
down.
a hard no.
It's so funny. I feel like Coke people just can never be Pepsi.
No, and you know what's
Coke
funny? My daughter is, she's like, but Mom, it's the same drink. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
That is categorically incorrect.
Yeah, you're like, I failed as a parent.
Like, it's like orange soda and root beer.
Yeah.
Like that.
They're
They're just
very
not
different. Very different
They're
tastes.
not the same. But that is a whole podcast.
Speaking of distracted and chaos and unhinged, this is being a mom at work.
Exactly.
Talking about your kids and then being like, wait, what's that?
What is Kara saying?
Right, exactly. Anyway, we were talking about how you build great teams and being known for building great teams outside of, mentoring women. What do you look for
qualities?
what qualities do you look for in new hires these days with like new graduates and people coming into their careers for the first time?
I hate this question.
You do?
I don't
Why?
personally. I don't, because it's just a very difficult question to answer.
Okay.
So Allison is going to
we'll
tell
let
us.
Allison
And I
answer
think
it.
across anyone, whether it's like junior role, more senior role, like I look for people who like want to own whatever it is they're doing and are going to be accountable.
Okay.
Right? Like, at the end of the day, you have to be accountable for your role, right? So it has like a strong sense of responsibility and purpose. I also think like if you're in high growth companies, I adore a high sense of urgency. That's not to say I don't adore the like, oh my God, I need to ask you this. I'm like, okay, that's not an emergency. But high sense of urgency of like knowing like what to jump on. Like, I love that. And I love when you look around and say like, hey, I'm like, done it, already out there.
Like, woo.
I also look for people way smarter than I am. Way smarter, right?
That.
So like, I know that as a leader, I think this is where a lot of time leaders get it wrong, is they're afraid to hire people better, smarter, because they're afraid like, ooh, that feels like a threat.
Yes,
But it's also
especially
like,
women.
Yes,
especially
it's
women.
been harder, right?
Scarcity mindset.
Yeah, it is because there's so few, right? So you want to be the best. But when you think of like the leaders that are looked upon as like incredible leaders, they've hired incredible teams.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
So I think that is something that's so hugely important of how you think about building high performing teams. And then also like you've got to give, again, part of it is like hire people better than you, give them the goals, the guardrails, what they need. And then get out of their way.
Yeah.
Like, don't question everything.
Right.
And sometimes I will drive people crazy, especially because now AI gives me way too many ideas and the ability to be like, look what I just designed. Can you make it? And they're like, go away.
Yeah. And they're like, no, actually we
Kara
can't.
just pointed at me because I do that all the time.
I know. I was
But
gonna
Kara
say,
actually said this morning we were talking about something at work, and Kara said, remember I told you I was smarter than you? And I was like,
hell yeah, Kara.
I do remember you told me you were smarter than me, and I want everybody at Work Bar to be smarter than me.
Yes.
Like I want to be the dumbest one in the room by far.
And you want people to feel like, you want people to have that like, I wish more people would want my job. Sometimes like, do you want my job?
Right.
You're like, no.
Yeah, everyone's like,
I know.
no.
Yeah, you're like, pass.
But you want that, right? Because you want people to have that hunger
drive.
and the drive and eagerness to be like, I want to take on more. I want to do more.
Yeah.
Now, I know we talked a lot about generationally. I think generationally we're seeing differences.
Less
of that. But I also think generationally, people know what they want and know what fulfillment looks for them, and it's not
amen.
working. Like I will say, there are times where I admire that. I'm like, oh, you don't think you should? Oh, weird.
Yeah, I'm like,
okay,
why did I feel that way?
To the top of
Right.
the giant company? What
Right.
do you want then?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, to have some peace in my life. You're like, okay, interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To
I
have-
never thought about that.
Yeah, to
It was
have
never an
fulfillment.
option for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That is so true.
And I think, as leaders, our job is to set the goals and the expectations, and like let people perform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you want to be replaceable. Like
Yes.
I wouldn't want if I don't say hit by the bus. We say like
Win the
if
lottery.
I win the lottery
Yeah,
tomorrow,
that's a nicer way to say it.
and
I do
I
say
just don't show up for work.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I will.
Yeah.
But I want the company to succeed
Yes.
and do well. I don't want it to
Yeah.
just be
Right.
me who can
Yeah.
do what it is I'm doing. So there's no reason for me to gatekeep
Yeah.
what I know.
Yeah. I mean, I have several hats I wear today, so like I
Yes,
wouldn't
you
have been
do.
able to take on U.S.
Right,
sales
education, yeah.
leadership if I didn't have an amazing marketing team that it's
Right.
like they got it. Nothing's
Right.
going to fall through the cracks.
Right. Yeah.
So I think I think for leadership, like as a leader, you can focus on the things that help you grow or
Yeah,
develop
right.
or learn or meet with investors or whatever it is you have to do.
or be on boards.
Yes,
Go to
and you
Underscore,
have
go
your
to Mass Sales,
and you
yeah.
have your team that's again performing, and then they feel fulfilled, right? Because
Right.
Yeah.
they don't feel like there's like, oh, there's nowhere for me to go.
Yeah.
Totally. That's such a good point. I think too, it's like, I'm like, I love that Kara said that to you this morning. That cracks me up. She's just like, hello. But I think about an article you wrote about career cushioning.
Mm-hmm.
This was a while ago now. Everything feels so recent because time is fake
I
in
know.
2025.
It
But
really
it
is.
was a while ago now. Is that like a lot of people call it a side hustle, and I am a side hustle girl. Like I really believe in what you ended up calling career cushioning, and it was something that didn't feel great to you at first.
No,
and then you were like,
I was brought
okay.
up to think that was
like disloyal.
disloyal to the company,
Yeah.
and it took a while for me to
Yes.
get to change and get comfortable and understand the value it brought to the people that work at WorkBar.
Totally, and
but
I
it
think-
was very difficult for me generationally.
Yeah.
I think generationally it's a huge thing, and just again, like what we're taught about leadership and taught about building your career and going to business school, you're like, this is the literal playbook. Like you get business school textbooks, and of course things evolve, and with tech things evolve, but for so long, and it still exists in many, many ways, there's a certain way to do things. And I think having the guts to say like, oh, I'm learning something new
Yeah.
from somebody who works for me.
Right.
And you want to be in that environment, and you recognize how that fosters growth for your company is so important. I think it's really cool. Just another thing. It's like, yeah, I love having these conversations because the future is bright with ladies like
yeah.
you in leadership.
Yeah, and how you can change it. So, the companies that you've been a very integral part in their growth, you've joined them at different stages throughout their life cycle. What do you prefer? Do you
I like that.
prefer like the scrappy startup scene, or do you prefer the more mature or the sort of the billion-dollar publicly traded company? Like, where do you? I mean, you're going to say Flywire now because like you have
yeah,
to-
I mean, she's
but
like, I'm
let's say-
feeling it
yeah.
here.
But what fuels your passion for team building? Do you want to start the team fresh? Do you want to where does that? What's most interesting to you?
So I feel like I've done a whole bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
But like I think so long as I feel like I'm building something and having impact, like if I ever become a cog in the wheel
Yeah.
and it's just like phoning it in, I'm gonna be so bored.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
not challenged. So like, I've come in to say like you're a team of one and you figure it out and you build it over time.
Yeah.
And then, I've had opportunities here where came in and like built the whole thing, and then in the case of like the US team I took over, it's like rebuild the whole thing.
Yeah.
So for me it's about building. So I would
Interesting.
say like I still feel like there's like magical moments that I feel that I've had.
Yeah.
When I think of like just pre-IPO, I loved that year in the build-up
Did
of like
you?
how do we really position our story and who we are and
Yeah.
make sure it's like super crisp. That was super fun, and I think as a CMO, like
Right.
Yeah.
That's like the dream.
it's sort of the dream, right?
Yeah.
To be
Yeah.
able to be in that spot. But even now, like, I love the fact that now it's like, okay, how do we get to the next place? And I do think now, like, AI, I know I'm not going to be cliche with everyone, like, what's changing everything? AI.
Yeah.
But
Have you heard about this new thing called AI?
Artificial intelligence?
But I think even for roles like marketing, sales, go-to-market, I think those all look so different in 12 months from now.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
actually
it's
think that's a
crazy.
super cool opportunity to think, like, how do we get this work done? Like, how does this change
Right.
a designer's life, a content creator's
Yeah.
life, like a CMO's life, like,
Right.
in role. So I think that, like, to me, the building phase, so long as I feel like I'm building
Yeah.
and not just like going through the motions,
Right.
then I get excited about it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
how do you feel about AI and how it is? I mean, that is, I'm going to get more specific on that
Okay.
question. You're like, well, AI gives me a stomach ache. You are a huge proponent of AI, and you have been since I've known you. You've like taken side courses to learn more about it, to
Maddie
think about
just
ways.
thinks the robots are going to like come in and take over.
I do. I'm
like
so
she's-
nervous
She
about
has
it.
a more like end of world.
I for
Ethical
sure do.
AI,
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think about it just from like my kids, like how my kids could look at something and think it's real and internalize that, and it's not. And
Well, I
that
already
really
see it now. It's
Well,
like,
yeah.
did
oh
you
my
see
God.
that giant shark dinosaur? And I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah,
did you
Right.
see
oh, bad
Right.
news. I know. My
Right.
oldest.
Bad news.
Bad
There's a
news.
shark dinosaur.
No, my oldest, she's 7, and she is currently obsessed with the Loch Ness Monster. Obsessed. And I remember going through that phase as a little girl, like, wait, what? Like, it's like the cool, whatever, legends. I was like a big dork like that too. But she, with AI, is like, Mom, no, like the Loch Ness Monster is real. And at 7 and thinking Loch Ness Monster is real, I'm like, yes, I'm so excited for her. But it's those kinds of things that make me just so nervous for our kids' generation. But
I don't
you
think
know,
they've ruled out that it's not real.
they have, well,
Yeah.
I
True.
have
Shark dinosaur could
recently watched several documentaries. We could do a deep dive if you're
Right. I
interested.
just wanted to put a pin in that for a second. No, I'm just joking.
It's probably a giant eel. No,
Right.
but anyway, when it comes to AI, as a fintech company, obviously the benefits are huge. How do you see it sort of like balance with keeping the human connection and keeping the things that we need and love and care so deeply about?
So and maybe I'm just more opportunistic than most, and I try to see the good in everything. So
Right.
yes, there's the like how to use it ethically, and
Right.
like everything needs guardrails. What I get excited about, like even when I sit a lot of times with my team, say it's across marketing or RevOps, even sales, you look at some of the mundane stuff, and you're like, ugh, it's taking you away from actually spending time with clients because you're like, I got to update Salesforce, I got to do
Right.
my
Yeah.
prospecting list and think of my email sequences. You actually see that people are spending a lot of time manually doing
Right.
that stuff. And then you think of that's where AI, like you augment a lot of that work. I think the things that actually become more important in this world, I was saying this to someone before, things like this, events, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People want human connection. I actually
Right.
think the experiences become more important. I think will 97% of the customer journey be done now all in LLMs in 5
right.
years, perhaps. But we still want to buy from things that one of our friends have referred. We trust
Right.
the people, we trust the company, and I don't think you'll replace those human connections. So I do think that actually comes way more important in this world.
Right.
I get excited about how does it help you augment a lot of this when you think of some of the roles that are out there today, even entry level, you're like, what's that job?
Oh my God.
No, anything like
Truly.
repeatable.
Repeatable.
Anything,
Yes.
Right. All of that.
Yeah.
It's all going
Yeah.
to get
Yeah, and
processed by the LLMs, and that's a good thing.
And I think that we'll see new roles come up that didn't exist,
Yes.
10 years ago. I do think trades become way more important. I think that's a good thing.
Me too.
I really do, because I think it's something that's always been looked upon of you
Right,
know,
I
go
guess
to tech, go into college.
Right.
But I think for
No.
people who love doing stuff with their hands and want to build and physically build, and you think today of all the automation we have, I feel like I talked to so many people this summer. It's like, my air conditioner broke. I can't get an
Yeah.
HVAC person to save my life.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
cha-ching. That's
Yeah.
where money is, right?
It's so true.
like become a plumber. Hello,
Yes.
people.
Right.
Yes,
Yes.
I know.
absolutely.
So I think it opens opportunities in some ways that have been, sort of shut in the last couple of years. I
Yeah.
think it does change things. I try not to let my mind go to the place of it's going to take every single job out there.
Right.
and not be too doomsday about it.
Yeah.
So I get excited about like, how does it actually help you rethink the way you do things? Because so much of what, every time if you talk to a company, you talk to someone, and you say like, why can't you do that? Like, oh, I have this awesome idea, and you're like, okay, so what's holding you back?
Right.
I don't have the people. I don't have the resources.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
And
so
when you look at what the
interesting.
resources are, it's typically
Right,
like
somebody
coding,
to input the data, right?
doing the research, doing the data. Like that's the part that gets me excited of like, you can
Yeah.
go faster and automate that stuff that just took so much time previously
Yeah.
and was
Yeah.
repetitive.
Yes.
It's very true.
I agree with all that, Maddie.
I know you do. No, and
It's not to say they
like
still
to
won't take over.
No, for sure. And like if the robot
Just trying to
apocalypse
ease your fears.
happens, you guys will be like,
Yeah.
Maddie was right after all.
I did see a funny one the other day, and it was a meme, and it was like, no, spare that one. They said please and thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so funny. I'm so guilty of that. I'm like, good morning, ChatGPT.
Right.
Hope
I'm
you
like,
had a good
hey,
night.
Alexa,
Yeah.
what's the weather? Thank you, Alexa.
I know.
I'm like, we're nice to the robots in this family. That's what
We
I say
are.
to my kids, too.
I love it.
I know.
Respect. It's
we're-
good
We're
practice.
good to the robots.
We're
That's
good to
just
the
how we roll.
robots.
I also, like, my daughter has dyslexia, and one of the things I talk to her about a lot is I'm like, because your brain works differently and processes information differently than other people's, that is a benefit. That means that like you lean more on your creative side, you find workarounds, you've like dealt with so many obstacles and all this kind of stuff. Like that's not predictable, it's not repeatable, it's not something that's going to be wiped out by AI.
Right.
And so I do think that
Maybe
it's an
that's why,
opportunity to have to lean more on, like going back to the cushion career, on what drives sort of fulfillment and happiness
Yeah.
for people. And maybe there's a world where that is more, that's just, it's something that's more valuable
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
future
Well,
than
that is
The other
actually
thing
so interesting. I haven't thought about it that way.
I think the other cool thing is if you think of the stuff that could have been out of reach for most people, right? Like learning a new language
Yeah.
easily
Yes.
without having a tutor or going to physically a class.
Right, expense of
learning
it.
just a whole new way of, I will tell you, I use it to help my kids with math, my sixth grader, because I'm like,
same.
I'm going to be right there with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
In
I use it at
2
work more for me.
years.
I had it like build a financial model for
Yeah.
me yesterday,
Yeah.
and it took 5 seconds
Yes.
where it would have taken my
Yes.
brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, hello.
So I think like those things
Yeah.
are kind of cool when you think about it, of like just
yeah.
open to different opportunities that people might not
Yeah.
have had before.
Right.
That is that is a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
No, obviously I see the advantages of it hugely, and I use it in my
Yeah.
work a ton. It's just so interesting, I think, from like a tech perspective, what we have thought about as like technology
Yes.
for so long now in such a short period feels so obsolete in a very tech forward city.
Yes.
I'm just always thinking about like what that is going to look like for Boston.
Yeah. And not to jump around, that just reminded me about being
Jump
a tech
around,
forward
babe.
city. When we think about companies that like have IPO'd, your Flywire was probably the biggest one in the past. I don't know how long in Boston, but we had a couple of biotech ones. The market has slowed down a little bit. Do you see, are we going to see like a resurgence because of AI companies, or is it going to be biotech again? Or are there more fintech companies starting? What is sort of the ecosystem of fintech in Boston right now? And do you think that fintech is going more like they'll just raise funding round after funding round, or is there more of a market for the IPO?
So I think outside of fintech, Klarna just
Yes.
went out with
Yep.
a very successful
They did.
offering, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I hopeful, right? We'll see that funnel improve. Obviously, it's been super quiet the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's still a very odd market with lots of uncertainty of like economics, political. So, and I think gone are the days of gone are the days of like, ooh, look at us, we've grown so much, 40% growth, but we are bleeding
wait,
cash.
we don't make any money.
So
Yeah.
profitability has to
Yeah.
be part of the equation. So
Yeah.
I think you're going to see lots of different types of companies spin out of AI. I do think one thing I see gaining traction, so even just as a buyer, right, like generative search. So there are so many generative
Yeah.
search companies out there building technology to help companies like me, right, which was the SEO and Google optimization,
Right.
keyword optimization. Now, how do you do it in LLMs? there's so many of them, they're all getting so much funding. And not just like first round, like some of them are B and C round. I'm like, and when did you start? 7 months ago. Okay.
like, oh,
Yes, but everyone is so hungry for it. Because even at Little Work Bar, we talk about generative and SEO, and I'm like, SEO is dead. And like, and all this stuff. And Kara and I were on a call with somebody, I don't remember who. I'm looking at Kara like she's going to come join the podcast over here about this, talking about that, and a couple of new websites and a couple of new tools that have come up recently with it. And I was like, I've never seen anything like this before.
That's so cool.
So it's interesting because I do think, like, if I mean, WorkBar's not a small company anymore, but I do think if companies where I didn't even know what this was 6 months ago, and now I'm like, where are the tools? How can I get it? How can I completely blow up my website to, sorry, Kara, I know.
I just got a rush of anxiety when you said that. I was just like, whoo,
but
I'm blacking out.
Really,
I just
really
told my
true.
team that too 2 weeks ago, so I get it, Kara.
But that's really interesting, though. So they're getting a ton of money right now.
You're seeing lots of funding there. And I think there's still a lot of like health tech AI companies getting lots of funding too. But I would say, obviously lots in AI. So hopefully that window continues to open and we start to see more good exits. I also think, I think you're seeing lots more companies decide, like, is that the holy grail anymore of being a scrutinized, publicly traded
like,
company?
why would you want that?
Right. So I think you're seeing others just hold on longer because, like, they don't. That's not the route they want.
Or even taking companies private after going public because that's a tough world to live in.
Yeah. So I think it's I feel like the last couple of years we've just seen lots of ups, downs.
Yeah, I think they're just more rapid now. Yeah. It's just the way of the world and the way of these industries. But now it's just so fast.
Yes.
You get whiplash.
Yeah.
I know. We're like, now everybody's having to think. We're having to think. We're having to think. We're all like, what is going to happen? Whoa. No, I would love to hear about some of the people who have inspired you and mentored you. We talked earlier about how, like, that's really important to you. And I think that's not important to anybody who it hasn't happened to. So with two very mentor energy ladies on stage, who are some of the people or some of the situations that you feel like really brought you to where you are today?
The first one at a very early age was my great-grandmother.
Oh, what did you call her?
Gammy.
But
hey,
Gammy.
She was incredible. When someone says, like, who would you ever go back to in time to speak to, I always think of her. So she always inspired me at a very early age. Definitely like the matriarch of the family. Yes. She was an immigrant herself, like came over from Italy, and she was born in like 1910. So careers were not a thing for women.
Right? She had a different life.
Right? Yeah. So she, I believe, when she was 60, her husband died, and then immediately had a mortgage to pay, and went and got a job. And she
was it for the first time in
her life
working out of the home,
right? And she was 60, and she had a mortgage to pay, and she worked until she was 85 years old. But I found after she passed away, we were like going through the home and the things, and I found her performance reviews, and it was like the coolest thing reading, like, Anna has like exceeded all her expectations.
Oh my gosh.
We recommend her to be like promoted to, she was a librarian at Quinsigamond Community College, but we recommend her to be promoted to like head librarian. And I just thought she was just the coolest woman. Like she was one of those people that you naturally gravitated towards. She was so wise, so smart. Like she could look at you and be like, why are you holding yourself back? Like I see you're holding yourself back. And for someone who was, again, born in 1910, incredibly progressive.
That's amazing.
Like really believed in like women and female leadership. And it was just so amazing to see someone who started their career, who had never had a job before, at 60 years old, and work until 85. She drove till she was 93 too. She only stopped driving because squirrels ate the wires in her car one winter.
God. She's like, doesn't drive anymore. We're not getting a new one.
But she was like, I think just like that was ingrained of me and me of like, she pushed you, like not in a way to say do this, but like inspired you to want to like think bigger and dream bigger and do more.
That's cool.
And I also have just been lucky that I've had amazing female bosses, female mentors over the year at Rapid7. I have incredible like co-female exec team members at Flywire.
That's so awesome.
And that's always like, I value that. So I have people that work for me, and I sometimes think of them as mentors. I learned so much from the people on my team, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like mentors come in all different shapes, sizes, and different times in your life and your career.
Yeah.
But my grandmother,
Gammy was it.
My great grandmother's always one who always stood out to me as the first one to really be like, you got this. Like, don't let people tell you can't do it.
Yes,
It's just
I
wild
love that
to think
energy.
about going into like having to get a job when you're
It's
60.
60.
And back in the
Couldn't be me.
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it could be you.
I'm kidding.
It could be
It's gonna
you.
be me. I'm a single mom.
Well,
Let's be real. I'm going to work until I'm 85 also.
yeah, and
too.
I love the thought that mentors can come in like all different shapes and sizes, and that like you could find a mentor who's a colleague, who's I think that's like super
A running partner.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
so different. Like, I think it's just being open to, I think people have so much to offer and give each other, right?
Yeah.
And I think people often think of, I must find a mentor that has had this type of
Right.
job and
It's
this.
so prescriptive.
Yes,
And
but
that doesn't work anymore.
Some of the best advice I've had for people who were, never a tech professional or had a college degree, right? But like, you learn so much from other people and experiences. And I think there's so much power in that.
Yeah.
I
so
totally
true.
agree. I totally agree. I just occurred to me too, is that because we're at Startup Boston, what do you think are like let's say you were starting up a company, marketing could give you whiplash today. It's just like, it's just wild.
Kara and I wear neck braces at night.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, every single day it's like something new. And then, Kara will be like, Instagram changed the
Yes, I
know.
algorithm, blah, blah, blah. So they're now doing SEO and captions. And it's like, what the heck is even like happening right now in this world? And who is controlling it? And that's a story for a different day. But who are the most important hires? Like, how quickly should you make it? Depending on, I know it's probably dependent on the type of company and everything, but like if we're talking to the Startup Boston community and they can make one marketing hire, who is that?
I always love this question
It's
because
not you, Maddie.
I
It's
feel
not me.
like so
It's girl.
many times I talk to founders, they're like, I need a CMO. I'm like, no, you
Right.
don't.
Right.
You need someone who can kind of do it all at this stage.
Yeah.
And the advice I try to offer is like, you have to kind of think of like the gaps you have, right? Because oftentimes you have founders who are incredible product marketers and positioning,
Right.
right? And if it's a product that's going to sell itself, right? But where you're lagging is like, we don't have good sales motions. We need more leads, right? Then like focus with someone who has a lean towards demand gen. So I think you have to know, this is why so many CMOs and marketers fails because they're not set up to succeed, because I can't tell you how
Right.
many job descriptions I've seen where it's like, must have expertise in all of these different
Right,
things.
you're
Even
like,
now, people will be like, can that person do it? And you're
Right.
like, that person does events.
Right.
So they can't design?
Right.
And you're
Like,
like,
what do you mean?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that is
Yeah.
such. People
Get
be
them a
like, "Can
Canva
you
account."
make?" Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my god, the number of times that I've had clients be like, "Well, don't you have Canva?" I'm like, "Yeah, and I can use it if you want it to be like very bad."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have like zero spatial awareness, so design is not my strong suit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like I'll write the caption. I
Yeah.
got you there.
Yeah.
It's so
I know.
true.
It's so true.
So I go to like, if you're a founder of like, you have to know what you need, and easier said than done, right?
For
Sometimes
sure.
founders don't need, and they will say like, I need someone who's been there, done that. I'm like, no, you need someone who's going to be willing to be scrappy and experiment, because when you're trying to find product market fit or what are your emotions, you need someone who can sort of be that like, I guess corporate jargon, but like that corporate athlete, right? Who could say like context
Totally.
switch, and maybe they're not the designer, but they can figure out like, can I get a contractor to do that for us?
1,000%.
And
They can
know how to-
articulate.
they can know how to figure out the need and
Yep.
put it in practice. But oftentimes you see people think that they need someone like who's done it.
Yeah.
I'm like, but they're not going to get their hands dirty in startup.
See,
You need
that's
someone
the
to get
thing.
their
Yeah,
You
hands
need
yeah,
dirty.
somebody, yeah. When I think of the corporate jargon for it, I'm like the MacGyver. It's
Yes,
like
totally.
something like that. What is that position called? Like,
I usually
Retired
like.
lady.
I usually give people either do like head of marketing,
Yeah.
head of growth.
yeah,
I think depending on particularly again like chief marketing officer. Like I think you
Yeah.
want to be realistic with what that
entails.
what it entails, and like
the
is it-
compensation.
Is it
Yeah,
right?
you better
Is it
pay me.
really
But
seriously,
exactly?
no,
Is
it's
it really
true.
that role?
Do you need that? Yeah.
exactly. And I think most people I think most people hire that role way before they need it. So I think depending, like, especially if I'm talking to like an earlier stage founder, I usually encourage like director of, if like that feels, you know, you have someone who's had a title is a hang up, head of is always great, but like really you should be expecting that like they can help you think about it, right? They can help you strategize, but they can also be like, okay, I'm going to go
and
into
this is how we're going to
create my campaigns. I'm going to put it in HubSpot and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
They have to be able to like hands on keyboards do the work themselves.
Yeah, I always say that like what I always think of as like my superpower is that like I'm an actual operator.
Yes.
I'm not like you know, I don't sit in an office and think of myself as like somebody who pontificates and has all these wonderful, great ideas, which P.S. I didn't know. I'm just joking. But like I sit down and I actually operate the business and I'll be having a call with our marketing department and I'll also at the same time be calling, slacking our painter to be like, this office needs to be painted or like this, like there's nothing that doesn't like fall under my umbrella to just sit down and do.
Right.
And so I do
women in leadership.
Well, I'm sure some men do it. I haven't met them.
Maybe.
But
I don't know any, but
I do think that like that is like where I provide the most value is like as I think strategically, but really at the end of the day, I'm an operator.
For sure.
That I think is what AI is going to illuminate, right? Yeah. So like there's a lot right now that's saying these people that just manage, like that's not going to be a thing anymore.
Right.
Yeah, that's
because
so
even
true,
as leaders,
Allison.
It doesn't matter what company you're at, like you got to figure out how to use this.
Yeah. You're so right.
So like
to make it actionable.
There's a lot that's saying like the manager of like I just manage a team and manage people, I don't do the work, like that's going to be a role I think that we see get fade into the sunset.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah, good
bye
riddance.
bye. Yeah. It's that isn't that has been a redundant level, I think, forever.
But I think this is where companies got very bloated and had to make these changes.
Yeah.
And you see lots of cuts happening. But if you think of the measure of a successful company, 5 years ago it was, we're going to go hire. We've raised all this money. We're going to go hire 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Right. Or now people are going to look for like, how are you actually going to scale and automate and hire the people you really need,
right?
Yeah.
But not a bunch of people to just manage other people.
Right. Right. That's like one of the first things I did when I came into WorkBar was to get rid of all of those people and get down and like sit with our customers and which we still do to this day. We co-work with all of our customers and our members, but just get rid of that layer because it just adds like zero value. And the closer you are to the people who buy your product, like that's never a bad thing.
No. It's a great thing.
Yeah, that's never a bad thing.
And you're really living that too. You're not just the chief marketing officer, which is a great important role, but you head up some departments and manage some like hugely hands-on work, which I think also keeps you sharp as the chief marketing officer. Yeah. If you're just kind of like, make sure you get your Instagram posts up and like, oh, that's a cute campaign. That's important and valuable for sure. Somebody needs to be minding the store, but you're not like learning as you go.
No. No. Like you definitely don't want to micromanage. So you're trying to do someone's job for them because no one wants to work for that person. But like, I also want to know how people are doing it. Like I want to be able to trust people and know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I don't like, you never want to be irrelevant that you're not willing to like, after this, I'm going to go meet with my team. We're going to sit there and like knock out a bunch of analysis and work rather than saying, go do this for me. Like we're going to go do it together.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Get
and
in the
I think where people at your level really, where it starts to get shaky in my own personal experience and friends' experience and, things you see on the news is when that does happen. And you need to be able to say what's going on at every level of your company. If you're the chief of anything, you need to be able to say like, well, that is what it looks like at the entry level, at the management level, at the head, at the director, because not even just because of accountability, but that's how you keep your company growing and strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're going to see more of that in the future.
I know. Tell us about having 3 young children and being the CMO of a $1 billion publicly traded company.
Another dope, another green paddle.
Like how that to me seems, it sounds like you have a pretty good support system.
Yes.
Yeah. Are your kids good?
Do you have good kids?
Yeah.
What's it like?
I like to think so. I adore.
You have all boys,
I have
huh?
all boys. I adore my children. It couldn't be more different, but I love that
Really?
about them. Just very different personalities.
Yeah.
So cool.
But something that like warmed my heart last week. So my youngest started kindergarten.
Oh.
So now my oldest just started middle school. So I had like
Whoa.
total breakdown. I'm like, I have a middle schooler and I have a kindergarten.
Oh
my
my
baby's in kindergarten. It's
God.
going to go so fast.
That's heavy.
And then my middle is 4th grade. So the 2 youngest are now in the same school.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I like just feel so grateful for my 9-year-old because it just like warmed my heart to see what a good human and brother he was. Like so
Really?
last week the little guy was like not having it, super
We
upset.
are in it.
He
To
like
go to kindergarten?
yeah, he just
It's
know
a
like
huge change.
it's
huge
a big
transition.
change, right? And like the first day he was like yeah, and then the second day I was like I don't want to go. I don't
Yeah,
go.
the first day they're like, "This is so fun," and they're like, "I have to do it again."
I have to do it again.
Yeah.
I have to
And
keep
it
doing
is
this?
exhausting.
Yeah. So like he sits with him on the bus.
No.
Sits with him on the bus, walks him to his classroom. And even like the bus driver, when she was dropping them off the next day, so was like, I have to tell you, like Lachlan is such an impressive kid. Because like he doesn't care that he's sitting with the little kindergartners in
right.
the front. He doesn't care what other people think of him. So like to me that warms my heart. And the thing
Ooh,
I keep
that's a
saying,
mom win,
yeah, and
man.
the things I keep saying is like I just want my kids to be good humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest will take care of itself. But like
Totally.
kindness and empathy and like, but I, that's when you think, take a step back and we talked about like doing so many different things. When I think of why I do what I do, like I
Yeah.
want to do it for them, but I also
Yeah.
want to be present for them.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
make sure you have that time, make sure we have like those family moments together. So, yeah, I mean, I feel very blessed and very grateful for like amazing children.
Yeah.
An amazing husband who's like a huge support system for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I also know like he's got it.
Yeah.
That is
He actually did say to
amazing.
me yesterday, like,
Yeah.
this is my job, because I was asking him all these questions. He's like, no, you go do your job.
Yeah, he's like,
This
if
is
you
my
could
job."
kindly
That's awesome.
step out of the home management
Yes,
role.
exactly.
That's
That is
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, and all the shuffling of sports and coaching and
Oh
everything
my
else.
gosh.
But yeah,
It's a lot.
It's a lot,
It's a
but
lot.
it's it's so fun.
I know.
Yeah.
I love it
It
too.
is so fun.
I love it too. When I left the company I worked for, like out of college, I worked there for 15 years, and I left after I dropped I think Teddy, my 9-year-old, off at daycare, and I was like, if I'm going to be like dropping my kids at daycare and missing out on
Yeah.
I want to work, I want to do something that I'm like super passionate about,
Yes.
that I'm making a difference. And so I think that is like super
Yeah.
helpful too.
Yes.
Like we know, so I quit that job and went to work for a startup company and then landed at Work Bar, where now I feel like very fulfilled, very
Yeah.
happy. I feel like I'm making a
Yeah.
difference and an impact. And I just think that that's like super important, especially for, I don't know, maybe dads too, but I think just for moms to know that
Yes.
you're out there like
Yeah.
doing something really important.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you're
makes it
setting an
easier.
example for your kids, and that's what being a parent is all about. There are
Yeah.
other things it's about,
Yeah.
good and bad. But the
Yeah.
biggest thing is just showing your kids, like, yeah, man,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, like you want to be tackling the NFL, let's go after it. It's like unlikely, and like please
I'm
don't
like,
get a million
damn it, I told my
concussions,
kid
but-
they couldn't go to the NFL. I'm such a bad mom.
Oh, please. We all have our moments. It's hard. Well, we are also just, it's, again, just another generational thing. We're so ingrained. The path forward is still so ingrained in us. I
Yes.
have to tell myself a lot. I'm raising 2 little girls. And even though I'm like pro woman, everything, want to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
There are times that I have to be like really intentional about being like, no, girl. Like
Yeah.
you can and you will.
Yeah.
And you have to put that energy
Yeah.
in. But that's part of the fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It
part of
is.
the fun.
Yeah. I love it.
I know. So great.
I know.
Well, this has been amazing.
I know, Allison,
Thank
you are
so
such an inspiration.
much.
Thank you so much for
you
coming.
really are. I feel so inspired today. Just like
I do too. I know.
Lots of ideas to take on the road.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see the future of Flywire.
Me too.
Under your partial,
I know.
other people in charge too, but under your tutelage is what I was going to say. To see the teams that you create and what comes next.
Yeah. And we love Flywire Boston.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
in
keep your HQ here.
Boston. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great rest of the day.
This is just a little gift from us to say thank you so much
you.
for.
This is so cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing the
I
podcast.
love a good branded canvas
right?
look.
Yes.
I mean, we
I
had
mean,
to up
that's
our
pretty
game for the
awesome.
marketing department.
I know.
Yeah, right.
Actually, that's good
I know.
swag. I have to share this with my team.
Yeah. Oh, please
do.
Be like,
Please
hello,
do.
yeah. For the swag. And those are our favorite books. At
Thank
Work
you.
Bar.
You don't get to leave yet.
Oh, I don't get to leave yet.
You don't get to leave yet. We let Allison gets to go. Maybe have some lunch.
But Allison, you're so lucky because you're not going to be sweating with these ear things on.
I know. She's like, I'm going to go like take a cool breath somewhere. This has been Setting the Bar live at Startup Boston. Thank you all so much for having us. To our fans, the many of you who joined
Kara.
us today. There's Kara. There she is cheering us on this whole time. What would we do without her? No, but for real.
I think that Kara, we're going to have some notes for her later, though. She like disappeared for an hour, and I were like,
I know, it really felt, it was like 30 seconds, but there, I kept looking up and being like, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Like, we can't.
She
That's why
disappeared.
teams are teams. You need everybody to be there for you at all times.
It's true.
She's like our baby mama.
But this has been so fun.
This has been so fun. Shout out to Startup Boston for hosting, for having us.
Stephanie, thank you.
Stephanie's amazing. Listen to that episode of our podcast. That
so
was another
good.
great one.
We've had some really good podcasts.
We have. We're lucky. I have some
Rosie,
ideas for guests.
Okay, let's discuss.
Yeah.
Did you see the montage Rosie put on Instagram?
Yeah, I cried.
Cried.
Yeah, when I was crying when I read the comment that said you were sobbing. I was like, I am also.
Like, I was like, we've had such a good time.
We have.
I know.
Love you.
Love you. Love you.
Don't cry too hard. All right.
I know.
And love you, Kara.
And love you, Kara. And
thanks
Johnny.
to our director and Johnny and everybody. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, that's next year. Are we done for the year?
No, dude, we're gonna come back.
It's been 3 hours. I gotta go.
I know.
Okay.
I talk about coffee. I might drink some of the real stuff
Yeah.
today.
Okay. Goodbye. And we're out.